Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be looking at my NTSC European and Japanese PlayStation 1 collection. As usual, I'm going to be going through each of them and maybe say a thing or two about each game. And although it might be obvious which ones are European, North American, or Japanese, I'm going to try to be as clear about that as possible. And also, I'm not gonna be doing this in any particular order, so I will be going through them in random order. So let's get started. Alright, so first I have here Breath of Fire 4. Now this one is a European copy, and by the way, I know the differences between the European and NTSC versions. I know that the European versions are like 50 Hz and probably in certain games run slower than their North American counterparts. But I decided long ago that that is something I am fine to live with, because I mostly have these games digitally on the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita, so it doesn't really bother me that much. Oh yeah, and also on the North American PlayStation account. So Breath of Fire 4, not a direct sequel to Breath of Fire 3. It has a totally new story of its own. And here I have it complete with manual. Really nice artwork there. And this one I played from beginning to the end. Now I like this as much as Breath of Fire 3, but I probably like Breath of Fire 3 better, just because I feel like Breath of Fire 3 has better characters. The art for both games are like on par with each other, but if I were base it on the character design of Nina, the princess in both games, I think that the Nina design on the Breath of Fire 3 is much better looking than the design here on Breath of Fire 4. And also, Breath of Fire 3 has actual dragon transformations. This one, it doesn't really turn into a real dragon, but sort of like almost like a bat looking creature, something akin to Legend of Dragoon. You play the game in the perspective of these two different characters, but although ultimately, of course, the main character is Ryu, the blue-haired guy. And yeah, it's a bit sad to see that this is actually, at least for me, the last good Breath of Fire installment that I've seen in a while. Next I have Evil Zone. So this one is a 3D fighting game, and I was actually, this is the European version, by the way, so just to give you a bit of a look at the characters that are available here. I actually wanted the Japanese version of this game because there's a song in one of the stages that I really like, but I couldn't find a Japanese copy where I live, so I just settled for a European version. Next I have Gundam Battle Assault 2, also a European copy, and probably one of the games where the difference between 50 and 60 Hz would actually matter. But I think this game has a better roster than the first one, and most importantly, it has God Gundam in it, and also it has the Wing Gundam in it. So I'm not sure if I said, but it's a 2D fighter, and I think there's like a Street Fighter type of controls in this one, or at least the type of commands that you can do to do special moves. And I really enjoyed this game. I wish there was an online version of it, but it released back on the PlayStation. Good game. Try to get it if you can. Next, I have The City of Lost Children. So this is kind of like a mystery solving game. I think you play this from mostly from a top-down perspective, but with the like fixed camera angles. It's not really something that's being sought after, as far as I know. So
will do well. Reserve some for the foundlings.
As it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I thought this game came in 2 discs, but it's only 1 disc. And I remember this game, I was actually on the back seat of my uncle while he played this game. It was mostly like watching a movie back in those days. And there's also not a lot of... There's no combat in this game at all, as far as I remember. But I think this is one of those very story-driven game, as far as I know. You can compare it to games like Clock Tower, I would say. Up next, I have Saga Frontier, and it's one of my favorite JRPGs on the PlayStation 1. I think that Octopath Traveler was actually based on this game, or at least took inspiration from this type of games. This and its sequel, and probably the Saga franchise as a whole. But so here you play the game on different perspectives of different characters. I can't really remember how many characters there are, but here I think it shows in the back there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's Emilia, Red, Ricky, Blue, Lute, Aslus, and T260G. So my favorite characters here to play are actually Red, Blue, and Aslus. And if I'm correct, the Switch re-release and HD remaster, they added another character in the roster. Next, I have Eternal Eyes. This isn't really something that I played when I was young, so I saw this in a local auction and it was cheap, so I just took the opportunity to get it. Since it's a JRPG, to be honest, I don't really know much about this game, but let me read the description for you at least. A magic bolt of lightning shoots from the sky. Another magical puppet monster is created. Another defender of the kingdom is born. As Luca, one of the few descendants of the Blessed Crimson Eyed tribe, you can save the kingdom of Gross from the onslaught of evil. Through the world of mystery and intrigue, create magical puppet monsters of your own and become invincible. This is an incredible new RPG to enthrall and delight. Sounds to me like Pokemon. So this is a North American copy, by the way. And you can tell by the thickness of the case. And I can see that this is probably... No, it's in fine condition. Up next, I have Saga Frontier 2. So I didn't really like this as much as its predecessor, because I think it only allowed you to choose or to play through 2 different characters from the beginning. And that's something I didn't really like. The story progression also felt a bit slow for me, so I just remember falling asleep when I tried to play this one. Or maybe that was just because I was tired from school. But this installment seemed to have a more focused story than the previous game, so I will probably go through this again at some point. But yeah, I like the first one better. Up next, we have Wild Arms, one of the best RPGs ever. So this is a European version of the game. And I got this from a guy who was trying to get rid of his PlayStation 1 games. That was a time when the market wasn't so crazy. And it was like 2 or 3 years before the pandemic, maybe. And this guy said that he should be playing new games and not old games. So he sold me this game for like $3. And as you can see, it's in pretty good shape. There's a few dust there on the disc. I'm not sure how easy it is to get rid of those, but I think that shouldn't affect the condition of the disc so much. I should probably clean this up a bit sometime. But this is one of those games with like great gameplay and great story as well, great music. The only bad thing about this game, I guess, at least even during its time, was the graphics, or maybe the battle graphics, because they showed deformed characters compared to Final Fantasy VII back then, that used like grown up character models. But I did like the 2D sprite style on the overworld. And there's a remake of this game on the PlayStation 2 as well, which I also have, and I will go through next time when I go through my PlayStation 2 collection. Up next, I have Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. I don't have the collector's box. I only bought this game on its own, and I think the owner didn't want this game because, like, oops. Well, on the disc, it actually has like the fan art version of the cover. You know, it's not like the original art, but this is an original game, of course. And here's the manual. Just try to be careful with this. And I think there's another disc on the other side. Yes, there are. So this is a 2-disc game. So this game might be a bit dated even for the time when it came out. The original game came out on the Sega CD. So this has maybe some improved graphics and improved animation, and Luna's boat song is definitely one of the most memorable things about this game, and also the intro song as well, which I think they took away on the PlayStation Portable version. So even though the PSP version looked better, I still feel like this is the game to go because of their decision to change the music, which is an integral part of this game. So I have a few more games to go, so
Althena, lend me your power!
okay, here. I didn't expect to go so soon about this game. This is like the best game ever, Xenogears, and this is a NTSC version. The first time I saw this game, I was mesmerized. Like, I know that Final Fantasy VII was the craze back then, but there was something in the art style of this game that really captivated me. And then the fact that you can ride mechs. And like use them in battle. That was like so cool. Not a lot of kids my age back then liked the game as much, but like this game has some really good gameplay, really good story, outstanding music, and the graphics isn't so bad. It holds up to this day. And this is a 2-disc game. I only have the PlayStation Hits version. Unfortunately, I got this game for around $30 maybe, and the non-PlayStation Hits version was around $60 during that time, and we're talking about maybe 5+ or so years ago here, before the pandemic. And as far as I can tell, the non-PlayStation Hits version, they have like some of the characters' portraits here printed on the disc, but everything else is the same. Like you would see this cover work right here at the back of the disc, or the inside of the disc. You would probably get the same manual without the PlayStation Hits spine right here. And as much as I would love a Black Label version of this game, which is my favorite game of all time, I'm quite satisfied just to have the PlayStation Hits version. I do wish that someday they remake this game, and even just an HD upgrade to the game. I think I'll be satisfied with that. But I'm a bit afraid that this game might get Grandia HD treatment if they go that way, so I would probably prefer a full remake of the game. So next I have Wild Arms 2. I actually played and finished the game first in its Japanese version, and this is the NTSC version. And I don't read Japanese, but back then you could like go to some forums, and they have like walkthroughs that you could follow in order to finish the game. It doesn't give you the same experience, of course, if you were able to like read the dialogues and stuff. But since I really like Wild Arms 1 back then, I just really had to like get this game in any form I could get. And also compared to the Japanese version, this is missing some songs. Like the intro they replaced with just some musical, and didn't actually translate the song. That's probably one of the reasons to get the Japanese version as well, if you are into preserving the differences between the US and the Japanese release. That's one of the major differences in this game. So unlike the first game, this is actually a 2-disc game. And I see this one is loose. There's the manual. And yeah, a really good game, both music and gameplay wise. The story isn't so bad as well, but I think that the first game was a little more Western oriented than this game is. But you start off with 3 different characters as well, like the first game, but you get more characters than the first game, so maybe that's something that gives this game a little edge over the other one. So the next game, I'm not sure if it needs any more introduction. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and this is an NTSC US version of the game. I bought some game with some CD sleeve, and I just put that in here because this is, quite expensive nowadays. I would have preferred a European copy of this game because that has like a better cover, but that I think you get that portrait of Alucard like inside the game in the manual. I don't want to open this up right now just to avoid any damage to the game or the manual for that reason. And of course, this game is available digitally on the PlayStation Network. So if you find it too expensive to get the game physically, just get the PlayStation Network version digitally. Up next, I have Grandstream Saga. So this tape has been there for a while and I couldn't get it out. I'm afraid that I might put the brake on the disc if I try to put too much force on it. This PlayStation 1 game cases, they're very brittle. So probably not the best looking game on the PS1. But I really like the gameplay and the story of this game. So you play it on a top-down perspective during battle. But the game is in purely polygonal, so I could say it's in 3D. But you play mostly in top-down perspective. Perhaps one of the things that would put off most people about this game, even back in the days, was that the character didn't have faces and their hands are just square blocks. But this has some really good anime cutscenes, and definitely one of the most memorable games for me on the PS1, because this is one of the first JRPGs that I played on the system. Up next, I have Cartia, the World of Fate. And this game is by Atlas. I believe this is a 2-disc game. No, it's not. So this only has a single disc, but it's on a 2-disc case. Now, this is not actually a game I played when I was young, and this is a tactical JRPG. And back then, I just saw this all the time, and no one was picking this up. So I thought, why not, and add it to the collection. Might be something that I'll get into sometime in the future. And I'm not sure if this is something that's... I'm not sure if the illustration is something that's done by one of the Final Fantasy artists, because this looks like Terra from Final Fantasy VI. So I wonder if it's done by the same artist. Please let me know in the comments if you know. So up next, I have Final Fantasy Chronicles. Not everything is Final Fantasy at all in this collection, but here it has Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger. I haven't really played much of Final Fantasy IV. I can barely even remember it. But the Chrono Trigger I played not on the PS1 but on the PlayStation 3 digital version. I think I came quite close to the end, and then I just dropped the game. And this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I didn't find the game as good as most people say it is. I think that most people are probably just driven by their nostalgia. They remember the game really good back from when they were young, when there wasn't really not an abundance of good JRPGs to choose from. The game was probably good back then during its time, but it doesn't really hold up to this day. I would say that Chrono Cross is actually the better game compared to this one, but still a piece of history, right? So I'm really glad to have a copy of Chrono Trigger in some form. But also, I would say that the PS1 version, even the digital one on PS3, is probably not the best way to play the game, because it suffers a lot of from loading times, and that's really weird because like it's a PS1 game, and probably because it has to load from the disc, and they tried to simulate that even on the digital version. So here's a quick look at the back of the game. Let's see what's inside. It's probably a single disc, right? No, it's a 2-disc game. So one for each game. Yes, it is one for each game. Up next, I have Legend of Legaia, and this one is I remember this to be a really excellent game. I can't really remember much of the music from the game, but the graphics was decent. They used like actual grown-up character models, and then there's a fighting system. The battle system is something similar to like almost playing a fighting game. So that's back in the days when they still like tried to innovate a lot on this turn-based JRPGs. But I remember I didn't really finish this game because like the disc broke on me, and like I was quite far in the game, and I didn't feel like starting over when the disc broke. So maybe I will play this game again at some point. This is a North American copy, by the way. And this, I'm not sure if it's available digitally. I don't think it is, but I hope it is. I'm gonna have to check on my PlayStation 3 again later. Up next, I have Metal Gear Solid. And this one I didn't see, but I think I got a German copy of the game. The back cover and the manual would be in German, I think. But the game itself is in English. Let's see if there's actually an English section in this manual. And this thing's starting to fall apart actually. No, the manual is in German, but the game itself is available in English. So if that's something important for you, so maybe that's something you should know. So here also comes with a demo of the very first Silent Hill, which is just like very difficult to get nowadays for a good price. So I'm not really complaining. I think I'm satisfied with this version of the game. So up next we have Parasite Eve, the very first game. And this is an NTSC version. I don't think that this was released in Europe at all, only in North America. And this is a 3-disc game. So Parasite Eve, this is by Squaresoft, and this is a mix of like They wanted to do something in the vein of Resident Evil, but also mix some JRPG stuff in it. So you play the game as Brea, and you play the game from a mostly top-down perspective, if I remember correctly, and there's some fixed camera angles as well. But unlike traditional RPGs, when during battles, there's this sphere that comes off from the character, and then that's basically the range of your attack. Well, she uses mostly guns, but there's some like melee weapons as well, and then eventually you get some supernatural powers, of course. So good game with good story. I really hope that this gets to have a remake sometime in the future, maybe on the PS5. But as to the contents of the game, so there's disc 1 and the manual, and this is a black label version, and discs 2 and there's a disc 2. So it's a 2-disc game, and the third disc is a demo of Xenogears Bushido Blade, and we also have here Brave Fencer Musashi and Final Fantasy VIII. No, just a movie. So only Xenogears has a playable demo. Bushido Blade, Brave Fencer, and Final Fantasy VIII are just movies. Yeah, great game. And unfortunately, I don't have the second game. I probably missed the window when I could still get it for cheaps, but I don't really regret. I mean, it is a much better game than the sequel, I think. And I didn't really like the sequel that much. And I could still play it digitally on the PlayStation Network, so I'm good with this. Up next, I have Chrono Cross. So, because of the Switch release, which contained the Radical Dreamers edition, I think this one didn't actually shoot up in price that much. An excellent game with great graphics, great music, and great gameplay. And I think is a much better game than Chrono Trigger. I think it's one of the contenders to Xenogears for me, for being one of the best games on the system and being one of the best games of all time. I still listen to the music very much up to this day, and I hope that we did get an HD upgrade, but I do hope that we can get some sort of remake. As for the contents of the game, so we have there the game, the manual, and how many discs is this? This is a 2-disc game. Trying to be a bit careful about this. Yes, so that's Chrono Cross for you guys. So up next I have The Legend of Dragoon, which just recently re-released on the PlayStation 5, PS Plus Classics. Also playable on the PlayStation 4, but you can also play it on the PlayStation 3, I think. So I haven't actually opened this game since I bought it. It's been like wrapped like this. It seems to be in good condition. I have no intention of unwrapping this for now. Maybe in a future video, since I can like play the game digitally. I should probably check even if like all the discs are here and if they are in good condition, but I kind of like trust the buyer that I bought this from, since it was like wrapped really well with good care. So up next here I have Fear Effect 2. I think it's one of those first cel shaded games that came out on the PS1. So since I don't really know much about this game or this series actually, so I didn't bother to get the first game. Maybe if I could get it for a cheap price, I will. And haven't really checked what the prices are for this game in this PAL version. So I think this is along the lines of Resident Evil, third-person action game, but like maybe not the zombie game. I'm not really sure what the plot is about. It says here, big guns, blissful babes, brain-taxing gameplay. Welcome to video game paradise. Yeah, blissful babes, like polygonal babes maybe. So it says here, Retrohelix, a story about the destiny of mankind. Delve into the colorful histories of the original cast of mercenaries and extraordinary circumstances that brought them together in Fear Effect. Hana and her new companion Rain, along with Glass and Dek. How do you pronounce that? Deke or Dek? Deke. No, Deke. Are independently hired under mysterious circumstances. What starts out as a routine infiltration and retrieval assignment spawns a chain of bizarre events that force our unlikely heroes to put aside their differences and unite to save the world from impending doom. So it seems like you have more than one character to use in this game. I should probably pop this in on my PlayStation 2 at some point. So next I'm gonna try to speed up a bit because this is close to an hour video now and I'm getting kind of tired. So we have the different Final Fantasy games here. Two of them are Platinum versions, unfortunately, but like even the non-Platinum version doesn't look so exciting anyway. I would have preferred to have like the NTSC US versions of these games because I think they have better covers. But I think for now I'm satisfied with these European copies of the games. If I were to rank them, I think the best one would be Final Fantasy VIII for me, and then Final Fantasy VII, and then Final Fantasy IX. And this is an interesting thing because like, say when I was 13 when I played Final Fantasy VIII. My brother, who was like around 10 that time, was interested in Final Fantasy IX. So you can see the difference, like teenagers like the game with the like more mature plot and mature looking characters, and the younger audiences back then, like from 10 below, wanted the Final Fantasy IX instead. So this appealed more to younger audiences back in the day. Up next I have here Alundra 1 and 2, and both are PAL versions. I think that the US version of Alundra 1 is absolutely beautiful, like the cover that was made by Working Designs. But unfortunately, even during the time that I was trying to get this game, it was already very expensive and I wasn't willing to spend as much money as people asked for back in those days. So maybe say the US version was selling for like $60 and I was only willing to pay up to $40, and that's like, if I were to buy the US versions, I would have to import it from the US as well. But so about the game, it's a Zelda clone. I think that the first game is a lot better than the second one in terms of everything, like graphics, music, and gameplay. These games are not like related at all. This maybe should have been called like a different game entirely. But I did finish both games I love that they are both in my collection because they are both memorable games for me. Up next, I have Vagrant Story. I have a love-hate relationship with this game because even when I like the art style and the gameplay was kind of unique, I found it a bit clunky and a bit difficult and a bit repetitive. And I remember getting to the final boss of this game. I'm not sure what I did wrong, but the boss had like 1,000,000 HP and I could do like 1 HP damage no matter what I did. Fortunately, during that time I had a Game Shark and I could hack the strength of the character so I could do big damages. So that's how I finished the game. Yeah, I cheated the game in order to beat it. Alright, we're getting close to the end of this video. I have one more game to show after this two, but this game, it spans different installments on different platforms, and I really wish that we would get modern remake, if not HD upgrades of these games, because I think that it's a really good series. It has a really good plot and really good gameplay, but unfortunately for the companies that has the rights to these games doesn't seem to bother what to do with the franchise. So it's actually the Legacy of Kain games, and these are both European copies. So here I have the Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, which is like the first game in this series. I actually didn't like this game at first up until I played Soul River. When I figured out that they had a connection with each other story-wise, that's when I came back to Blood Omen and started to appreciate it more. So Blood Omen is actually sort of like a Zelda type game, but you play in isometric view. It's a 2D game. You get the sword, you get to wield the sword, and you get different upgrades and different weapons. So you get an axe, maybe eventually a flaming sword, stuff like that. But both games and all the games in the series have really good voice acting and a really good plot. But unfortunately, this is sort of like a cult thing, at least for now. But I hope that they reintroduce these games, the entire series, in modern platforms sometime in the future. So this version of Legacy of Kain Soul River, this one actually has a lenticular cover. If you can see there, it's like in 3D. Not regret this. So right there, Raziel. So unlike the original game, this one is in third-person 3D. It starts like 1,000 years, I think, after the events of Legacy of Kain. And by the way, maybe I should mention that the Dreamcast version of this game actually runs a lot better. So if you want to play it on a console and you could play it on a Dreamcast, play the Dreamcast version, because that has like better textures. And also, I'm not sure how the PC version holds up. I have this game on Steam. This game is unfortunately not available on Steam. It's available on the PlayStation Network. Alright, so I said this would be the last one, but I actually have 3 more games to show, and those games are in Japanese. So this is the collector's edition for Lunar 2 Eternal Blue complete. Unfortunately, I don't have it complete in this box. So I have the game, I have, let me see how I can open this without damaging it. So I have the game, I have the art book, and this thing here, the Omake box. So this thing has, well, I have a PlayStation 2 memory card stashed there. I have the map, but I think it's missing some cards and some other stuff here as well, and obviously the pendant is not here as well. I have the soundtrack, the disc, and that's stashed away somewhere because I actually listen to the song from time to time on a CD player. But I don't think I'm gonna go after the complete set for this box because I'm quite satisfied with it. I would have been satisfied with getting just the game and not the box as well, but I did get a good deal, I guess, for the box. So like the first game, this has some really good music. I would say that the graphics is a bit dated probably even during its time. So unless you like focus on the story and the gameplay, you probably wouldn't have liked this game so much. And to be honest, I was more of like in the backseat during the time of this game. Like I watched someone else play the game, but I like what I've seen and I remember much of it. I am very emotionally attached to it, so that's why I have this. Alright, the last 3 games are in Japanese, and the last ones that I'm gonna show you, at least for now, these are all the PlayStation 1 games that I have. And the first one is Elemental Gearbolt. And I know that an English version of the game is available, but that goes on for ridiculous prices. And I got this one for maybe 20 bucks. There's not a lot of dialogue in the game. It's mostly on the cutscenes. And this is like a rail shooter type of game. I know that the US version, the ones by Working Design, it has a really cool cover and all. The game looks really good, but I'm satisfied with this version and I'm just happy that I have a copy of this game from my childhood. And this is something that I actually tried to finish. I didn't have a railgun shooter. I didn't have a railgun accessory back then, so I tried to finish the game with just using the D-pad, and I think that worked well for me. Next I have Tales of Fantasia. I also have the game, the Japanese version, on the PlayStation Portable. And I got both the PS1 and the PSP versions just to be, I don't know, just to be safe. From what? I'm not really sure. But like, I kind of wish that I didn't get like a PlayStation Hits version. This is PlayStation the Best, sort of their PlayStation Hits. This game never really released in North America in English. I heard that there's a GBA version, but that was a disaster from what I heard. I really like the opening song for the Japanese version. So even though I have played the game like very briefly, tried to guess what was going on, I never really got into like finishing it. I mostly had this game for like the opening movie. So last but not least, so this is Super Robot Wars Neo, which is something you can still get very cheap, and this is the only version of Super Robot Wars I think that they used like the actual size of the mechs. The ones that you see right now, even the modern ones on Switch and PlayStation 4, they use the super deformed versions. This is the only one that has them in their actual sizes. The only caveat is that the animation is not very good. When they try to use a melee attack, the mech would like try to get close to the other mech and then just show some slashing animation. They don't really like move their hands. But I played this game a lot, and you could play this game in Japanese if you just try to remember where the certain menus are, how to move in the map, how to attack, how to defend, how to evade, how to upgrade your mechs. Like, I mean, even playing the modern Super Robot Wars game, like Super Robot Wars 30th Anniversary, it's available in English, but I don't really read much of the dialogue anyway. Maybe it's convenient that the menus are in English, but that doesn't really matter much for me. And this has a pretty good roster as well. So you see here they have Voltes 5, which they locked behind a DLC on the Super Robot 30th Anniversary version, which was kind of a bummer because I really wanted him on the cart. That's Super Robot Wars Neo, and the last but not the least of my games so far on the PlayStation 1. I'm not really actively going after PlayStation 1 games anymore because I think I have most of what I wanted. If I come to encounter something at a good price, then maybe I will get it. But for now, I'm satisfied with what I have. So that's basically it for this video. I hope that you guys like this, and if you did, please share this video with your friends, and please leave a comment and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next time on the next video. Take care and goodbye.